Hey, what's good, you guys? It's D Amazing here, and today we're going to learn about vanilla posing. This is the ACBA term that most people are more comfortable with using when it comes to standing your figures up and making them look cool in a basic stance. Now, with basic posing and things like this, it is not as basic as you think that it is. So I've chosen figures at random that I had around on the table, setting up in between reviews to choose, well, I didn't choose them, I chose them at random, but what I'm saying is, I chose them at random to prove that it's one of those things where it takes practice, and no matter what you choose to do, it's still one of those things where it's going to take some time. It may not be something you learn instantly. So I have a Marvel Legend, a Mezco, a Thousand Toy, a NECA Predator, a Transformer, and a Mythic Legion. All are completely different in terms of engineering and articulation. Some could be similar as well too. But the reason why I chose them is because it's different styles and what different people do, and I want to be able to help everyone as much as I can. Now, all these guys are standing in some form of quote-unquote vanilla posing, with the exception of him, but that is still a basic type of vanilla posing, which is a variation. And the reason why we chose that is because there are certain stances that you do and choose that you just want them to look good in, right? So let's start off simple with most people and what they collect, which would be a Marvel Legend. A lot of people do collect them at some point, and they know about them. I chose one of the most posable ones, but as you can see here, him just standing up, it looks good. It looks natural. It looks, home. It feels homey. So with Spider-Man, what I chose to do is there's little things like tilting the head down slightly, making sure the body is lean. And even though he's leaning a little far backwards, which you can, even if I lean him a little forward, right? You make sure the ankles are tilted back and make sure the legs tilt back. But either way, still looks natural each time. Now, let's say I jumble them up in a random position. Let's gonna rotate these legs any which way. Let's just get him in some weird, crazy position, right? So now he's like that. He's a hot mess. Now, when standing our figure up and trying anything like this, naturally, it's very easy for me to pose him up. But I know I need to show you guys. So I'm gonna do it step by step. First off, we're gonna straighten the legs. That's the most important thing. The legs determine what happens to the rest of the body. If you can't stand on your own two legs, you can't pose well, right? So we're gonna straighten our legs to a point that is naturally straightened and not one of those things where it looks like Spider-Man's forcing his legs to stand up on his own. So even though, look, I didn't even change the rest of the body yet, his legs can stand. See? It's the first thing we work on. We see that he's tucked in a little bit of ab crunch. His body is tilted back a little. So we tilt forward just a bit, and we're gonna tuck these ankle pivots going backwards. It looks a little bit more natural. We fix that upper torso. We bring the arm down. I'm not gonna change the arms yet, just gonna bring them down. Again, now we're looking a little bit more natural. Now we're gonna fix our arms to a point where they look more natural. When you stand, a lot of people think that you stand with your arms straight back. This is what happens when your arm is straight back. That's not how that works. You actually bend your arms so that way you don't, what's the word for it? You bend your arm so basically your arm won't hurt from doing it. It's kind of like a muscle thing. Your muscles prevent you from your arms just sitting always technically flat. They actually have a little bit of hunch in them to go forward. That's so your arms will be able to do anything like move, function forward, things like that. You want to rotate the wrist a little bit in. And even though I didn't fix this leg completely yet, I'm going to show you why. Even if Spider-Man was looking up and his head was like this, obviously that's not natural unless he's giving somebody, he's looking from that angle, right? So let's say Spider-Man was looking directly at the camera. Voila. And that's because he has a mask on. Assuming he's someone like Gomez, whose eyes can look pretty much anywhere, it's a different story. But we can tilt the head up to look forward just a little bit. And again, still look natural. So the reason why I didn't fix his leg is because it actually looks good, decently posed, and it'll get him to stand. But if you really are a knack for it and it has to be perfect, you make sure the legs, both of them are moved completely forward, and you just tilt the legs forward. That's real help with Spider-Man. Now, we're going to change it up and actually switch it over to a Transformer real fast. This guy is actually pretty big, so let me just move it on back and mosey it on up. Now, this is an MMC toy, and now with most robot stuff, and that's why I'm going to do the synthetic human next, as you can see, the same thing can be applied here. You tilt them back a bit, you fold it up, and as you can see, there's lots of what they call kibble. So you can actually pose this guy to look the same way with Spider-Man. Obviously, there's going to be kibble in the way, so you want to focus this guy to a point to where when you pose him up, you're going to be able to see just about enough of him, including the head, right? Obviously, my framework is a little shoddy from my phone, but if we move it up or down, and we remove negative space, we have a winner when it comes to our posing. And the same applies here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rest that arm in a little bit, and I'm going to make sure it tilts in and move this one up. It sits a little better, looking flush. Little things like that, little nuances make all the difference. You want him to tilt his, let's remove that. You want him to tilt his leg forward a little bit so he can get a walk-in motion, or he wants to look down at someone and make it a little easier. There's stuff like this you can do. You know what I mean? There's tons of little nuances that kind of add onto your effort. And what I highly suggest that you do is, if this is one of those things where you kind of can't get it right, I definitely suggest you try from different angles. Because as I move this guy back, right, I didn't change anything. He still looked good posed up over that way. So it's little things like that. Now, the same is going to apply for the 1000 toys. He has, and my cats have been on my desk without my knowledge. I can see that now. He has a weapon. So when holding a weapon, I am not an expert in guns, but I know that a gun, you are not supposed to point at people. You should always have your safety on when not in use. Little things like that I've been told. So this is going to look cool, but I'm pretty sure this is probably not a proper way to hold a gun. It looks cool, but not a proper way and not proper gun safety, right? But it looks pretty good. It looks like a crazy, crazy thing to be holding. Now, a lot of the times, you can have it pointed down. But from what I see in most military movies and what my friends tell me, you want to hold your weapon when not in use. Finger should be towards the trigger, not pulled on the trigger. And you should have it like this, pointing down at all times. So let's actually rotate that ball joint down. Let's put a hand over here. I'm not sure what that part is called, but I know my military friends, and they always tell me it should be something like this when not in use. This is what I see when I pass by on a train station at Penn Station. It's usually held like this. So little vanilla poses like this as he looks towards you, or let's say he was turning this way. Little things like this go a long way. So as we put this guy back, again, it goes back to nuances. And I know I'm kind of rambling on, but I just figured I'm trying to help people, so I'm going to try to find the words to help you with. Gomez is a little bit easier. It trying to apply the way towards Spider-Man. Very posable guy already. But with Mezco's, I noticed because of the clothing, you want to make sure your clothing is neat and nice. You want to make sure arms and little things that are bunched up kind of just don't get bunched up as much, right? You can either have your head tilting down, or you can have the head up. Either way, Gomez kind of looks good in any which one. But I prefer him looking down because I think it looks really cool. You can see the neck tilts just a little bit forward, the sway in the shoulders. Little things like that go a long way for your Gomez. Same applies if you want to get him in a stance like this. So let's say you want it arms crossed. What I highly suggest you do is, if you're going to do an arms cross pose with any sort of superposable figure, you make sure you are able to tuck the arm in on the arm that's going to be above. Make sure it can tuck the wrist in just ever so slightly, because then you can do stuff like this, right? It can sit flush right there. And mine's is not sitting all the way flush. There we go. Much better. But as you can see here, it just looks a lot better. With NECA and the Predator stuff, I know if you don't have an Ultimate Predator, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because they don't have that upper torso movement. So with the NECA Predator, and I have to adjust again. And I'm sorry if this video is very long, but I'm hoping at least people can cut to the part that they need for whichever one they need it for. So if you have to, please do. It won't hurt my feelings. Maybe a little, but nah, it won't. So with him, I have a cape. The cape kind of adds that ambiance to him. But most of the Predator shots that I do, the heads have to look down because they're mostly taller than other people and they want to be able to see through the helmet. But you also want to make sure the head can look at the camera of which you're posting it. So camera-wise, you want to be able to point and shoot at a way that's going to gather the Predator's presence, set that ambiance, set that mood. This leg tilts a little bit back to help with the balance, but that's mostly because they're so big and so tall, you want to make sure that you capture the helmet. So if, like, let's say I tilted the legs forward, that means I'm tilting the head forward and the ab crunch forward. That's a little too far forward, obviously, for the head to be down. But you can make up for that by tilting this forward and tilting the head forward. Ooh, tilted it too far forward. And that's a mistake that I make constantly. So when shooting, you want to tilt it to that point where you get it forward. But now he has a hunch neck. Obviously, for photography reasons, you can get around that with some little trickery. Because most of the time, if you are not having him quote unquote vanilla posed, he's in some sort of like attack pose, right? So you have these arms backwards. It doesn't make sense to have his head forward like that, right? And not unless, oh, that's where my disc went. I actually left it in there. Didn't even think about that. See how that comes off a little too easy? So what I recommend is, at least for posing wise, what I'm going to recommend to you is you tilt it up as high as possible. You're gonna set it to a certain degree, one that matches that head. See how the head kind of looks across? And now you make the legs match it, because this makes it much easier for you when you are posing him up for battle photos. And this is supposed to be about vanilla posing, but I figured this would help, especially with people that do predator stuff. So even though this is technically not a vanilla pose, I call this the battle vanilla. And the reason why it is because it's a stance that still equates to somewhat standing, especially if you're going to put him on your shelf. This is a great photo of how a predator can stand, be in a battle pose, and then still look good technically, mostly standing. Little things like that. So this should help. You can see the head can still look towards you. It can look from a camera at a bottom angle. It can look from a straightforward angle. And even if you looked up, the rest of the body kind of complements that. So there's tons of things that you can do. So let's move him there. And I was looking for you, and I didn't know you had him the whole time. Next up is Lord Veritas from Mythic Legions. I was actually going to take a few pictures of him, so this actually works out. It won't be in this video, but just in general. So even with the cape, this is the standard Mythic Legions cape. So I'm going to just unfurl this a little bit. Most Mythic Legions just look absolutely stunning just standing up. But what I've known is that for helmeted characters, just like with Predator, you choose to either look really forward while down, or you're going to choose some type of nuanced pose where the head is slightly tilted. See? It's all about the camera angles in which you match it. And that's why mine's look the way they do, because my angles match the way that I am both framing it and how I want them to look at you guys. The same way you look at the camera, I want the camera to technically look back at you. So let's say he wasn't looking at the camera. He was just looking off into somewhere, right? Let's say into space or whatever. I have an eye somewhat looking at you, but even though it's looking this way, you see it as if he's somewhat looking at you or often to a direction at you. So it kind of makes sense. These are one of those things where hopefully you get what I'm saying, because I don't know how to really explain it. But yeah, Mythic Legions already look good standing up. What I do suggest is, if you want help standing them up, don't lean them too far back. Lean them at the point where the very tip of the chest should meet the belt area, and the head should help you do the rest, because they don't go past a certain point going down. So you should be all right. That way, that should keep you safe. As you can see, it looks like he's actually looking straight already, which he is. So these are all the tips I can really give you guys. Hopefully this will help you. I'm going to post this on IGTV as well as YouTube. There will be no pictures at the end, but hopefully you guys have thoroughly enjoyed and taken the information that you need out of it. I'm really glad to help you guys. Thanks for all the questions too, because they help me help you guys. And it means a lot to me. As always, guys, thank you so very much for always watching. And please be good, do good, drink your water, guys. Later.